This was all started by Mother Nature. When she flooded the streets of Manila, and people began to complain, and here was BBM standing before the Congress, the House of Representatives, in joint session with the Senate for the SONA, saying those memorable words, "Mahiya naman kayo." And I think this was the start of everything.
And also with us is somebody that I've known for quite some time, Attorney Jose Virgilio J.V. Bautista, a veteran human rights and public interest lawyer who has long been involved in civil liberties and advocacy litigation. He is the co-convener of Artikulo 11, a Filipino anti-corruption movement launched in August of 2025, focusing on the citizens' war against corruption. The group actively campaigned against political dynasties, anomalous flood control projects, and ghost infrastructure projects, advocating for independent investigations.
Attorney JV, critics often argue that the Philippines has strong investigative mechanisms but weak enforcement when it comes to high-level corruption. From your perspective, as a human rights and public interest lawyer, is the accountability system working as intended? You have 2 minutes.
I wouldn't even characterize investigative authority or power as strong in this country. They're both weak. Investigation and implementation of whatever findings they have. I'm very pessimistic about what's going on now. There was some optimism when this started in August. We even put up Artikulo 11 in line with the constitutional provision on public accountability. That's Article 11 of the Constitution, public accountability or accountability of public officials. This was all started by Mother Nature. When she flooded the streets of Manila, and people began to complain, and here was BBM standing before the Congress, the House of Representatives, in joint session with the Senate for the SONA, saying those memorable words, "Mahiya naman kayo." This spurred so many responses from citizens groups. And I think this was the start of everything. There were very good potentials at the start. President Marcos organized the ICI, the Independent Commission for Infrastructure. The Senate conducted, the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee conducted an investigation which was shown live on TV. Although we were asking for a real, honest-to-goodness Citizens Commission. Yun na ibigay sa amin, what was given to us, to the people was a parang mistiso eh. No? It was not, to us, an honest-to-goodness thing. But then, we wanted to give it a chance. Because at that time, we were really against the idea of the House of Representatives. I think sila Congressman, yung one from Bicol Party List, who used to be with the Makabayan Black Youth.
Terry.
Oh,
sa Bicol Saro Party
He
List,
was
yeah.
leading the charge for the House of Representatives to investigate this. So we came out publicly. How are you expecting, people who are accused of this plundering the public coffers, of investigating themselves?
Yeah.
So until finally, thankfully, they had to desist. Senate went on, but there are now, how many senators implicated? Implicated, these are big names. Escudero, Villanueva, Estrada, big names in the Senate. Senate President pa nga isa eh. But he was a casualty of all of these things. There were so many limitations to that ICI. Number one, they were not, it was not composed of heavyweights, people who would have had gravitas and credibility to conduct an honest-to-goodness investigation of what's going on. Because so many big people are involved. If you do not put somebody there who will have the moral stature, integrity, and the gravitas to conduct a real investigation, this will all fold up. So we did not see that. You had a retired justice who, excuse me for saying, but it does not have really a great distinction. If it had been Chief Justice Renato Puno, for example, it would have been different. Oh. I think Babe Singson was a good choice, but what did he do? He left. Oh, ito si Magalong was, I think, a good choice again because he was high profile. He was very active. He was very talkative to the media about what's happening. But he had to leave very early on. And so what happened? Now there is just one member of the ICI, and he's saying that he's going to wrap it up because they have delivered their mandate. I cannot really understand that. They chose not to give live coverage to the investigation, which I think was one of the fatal mistakes. Because the only thing that kept the Blue Ribbon Committee very successful or successful in their ongoing investigation was because it had live coverage. People, Filipino people, they like live coverage.
Yeah.
Because it comes
But
across
it was
as
really-
real life drama.
Oo, talagang revealing din naman.
Oo,
Yung mga sabi nga
oo.
nila, yung mga pasabog, di ba?
Yes, but look at the Blue Ribbon Committee. How many signatures do they have with the partial report? It needs 11 signatures. I think by now there are only 4 or 5 signatures. And all the rest will not sign.
Hence
So,
your na mahina kahit itong
Mahina
investigation.
Mahina talaga.
Oo. So, Attorney JV later will go into more details.
Recently, the Independent Commission for Infrastructure wrapped up its probe into controversial flood control spending. At the same time, the impeachment proceedings against Vice President Sara Duterte have placed questions of public accountability in the national spotlight. Oversight mechanisms are clearly active. Congress is investigating, watchdog groups are raising alarms, and the public is closely watching. Yet, many Filipinos still feel that despite years of scandals and investigations, very few high-level officials end up in prison.
Which raises a difficult question for any democracy. Are our accountability mechanisms delivering consequences or simply exposing problems? Attorney Barry, from your experience in Congress and legal practice, why do many high-profile corruption scandals generate investigations and outrage, but rarely end in convictions of senior officials?
Well, it's the way that the system is set up. Obviously, we want to uphold the rights of the accused as much as possible. So you have all these safeguards in place. You have all these mechanisms for the accused to take advantage of. And the thing with high officials, and we're not even talking about just high officials. People like contractors who have apparently earned billions from anomalous projects. They have the resources, they have the wherewithal to hire the best lawyers and to take full advantage of the particular mechanisms in place. Now, I'm not blaming the lawyers themselves. Obviously, they're doing their jobs. But the problem is, because of the way the system is set up, you can theoretically delay cases for years. And, public attention has a built-in time limit. At some point, when people move on with their lives and they see that no one has actually been jailed, no one has actually been convicted, they will just forget about it and move on to the next thing. That creates a more general impression that nobody actually is being punished, particularly if they are powerful enough or well connected enough. I think the recent experience we have had with the flood control issue is very instructive on this point. When the president said in his SONA last year, as Attorney JV earlier stated, mahiya naman kayo. We expected that things would move fast. Diba? Na ito ay isang bagay na talagang kikilusan, tututukan hanggang may makulong. And then when in November, he followed that up with before Christmas, bago magpasko, may makukulong dito. And then nothing happened. What does that do to the level of public expectation? You promise something and then you fail to deliver. Up to now, it's already March, 4 months after that event, and we're still waiting. And the simple fact of the matter is, if high officials start these investigations, make these promises that accountability will soon be delivered, and then they fail to deliver, the damage to public trust and the thinking that, well, wala naman pala magbago eh, balik na naman tayo sa dating gawi, is going to be reinforced. And I think that that's the hurdle we need to cross in this if we are going to actually reach the point where accountability is more than just a buzzword and it leads to actual consequences even for people in high positions.
Yeah.
No, thank you, Attorney Barry. Well said. Now, Attorney JV, the Philippines has several institutions designed to enforce accountability. Of course, we have all under the Constitution, for example. And then we have the Commission on Audit, the Office of the Ombudsman, and the several congressional inquiries. But critics argue that the system often stalls between investigation and prosecution. Somewhere along the way, nawawala ng gana, nawawala yung inertia. So from your perspective, as a public interest lawyer, where does the accountability process usually break down?
Okay, before I answer that, may I just add a few things about my credentials. I was in Congress as a member of the House 20 years before Barry got there.
Naku, nare-reveal ang age. Kala ko
Yes.
magka-age
So you
kayo.
must have been 18 in violation of the Constitution.
I remember campaigning for him.
And I was
my God.
vice
I didn't
presidential spokesperson before Barry took the seat.
Yes, I
For
remember
Vice
that.
President
That's what I
Binay.
remember
Yes.
for
So
Vice
your
President
career,
Binay.
our
I just wanted to impress upon you that we have all been in government. Barry and I used to be lawmakers. You were secretary and undersecretary. You were in the executive.
Yeah.
So we saw how the system worked from the inside. We knew how it was working. Now, the problem with our society right now is that institutions for accountability are really built to fail.
Parang sinabi ni Attorney Barry
They are
kanina.
built to fail.
Oo.
Why? Because power and wealth would trump accountability institutions. It is really power and wealth that will dictate the outcome of any investigation and accountability in the end. Whether a senator or a congressman or a president will be convicted or not depends on who is wielding power. Now, President Estrada was convicted because Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo, who ousted him, was in power. You see? But Senator Estrada, Senator Enrile, who else?
Senator Bong Revilla.
Bong
around that
Revilla,
time. oo.
during the time of President Duterte, were able to escape conviction. They were cleared by the Sandigan Bayan. So, there's really a big problem here when you rely on accountability mechanisms alone. Truth to tell, the driver of the process of trying to exact accountability from high government officials are really the people in the streets. These are the true drivers. Because if there's no one speaking about the flood control scandal, Mr. Marcos is not going to follow it up. Now, because of the huge mass movements, demonstrations, left and right, including even members of the clergy already, middle class, some even from the wealthy sectors. That was a time when public officials were responding. Because, of course, public officials, they need to be able to be sensitive also to the public pulse. So, to me, I can identify two drivers of this accountability process. As I said, first, the protest in the streets. People need to go out and clamor. The other is a focused social media. Kasi we have a powerful social media now. Everybody can weigh in their opinion. So, they both feed on each other. No? When social media looks at the protest in the streets, then they will have content, right? So, government will be forced to respond. And in this case, both the executive, the legislative responded. It's a good thing that Secretary Boying Remulla was appointed now to the Ombudsman. I say that because his character and personality seems to be better suited as an ombudsman. The fellow who was there before him was kind of, I don't know, very...
Si Justice Martires?
He was he dismissed a case of a senator without even
Yung kay
Joel
Senator
announcing.
Joel
Joel
Villanueva. Oh.
Senator Villanueva. So he was too laid back. He was he was doing things under the table. I don't know, but Boying Rimulya seems to be cut from a different cloth. He is more assertive. He is more proactive. He even telecasted in his many press conferences, which to me is good.
Yeah.
However, he only controls one, and that's the ombudsman. As I said a while ago, the Blue Ribbon Committee seems to be doing a good job, but are the senators supporting the findings of the Blue Ribbon?
And
Maybe
so I
because
suppose
I'm
this
sorry.
is a good opportunity to open the floor for a discussion. Since we have 6 minutes to do that, yung sinabi niyo po, Attorney JV, na the Blue Ribbon Committee seems to be doing a good job.
In the beginning,
Bakit may qualification? Anong pong nagbago?
well, they cannot even get the report signed by the senators.
But isn't it because, ikaw, Attorney Barry, you can weigh in on this, isn't it because ang tawag nga nila sa senators, 24 republics?
And that's yung problem na finlag kasi ni Attorney JV is very real sa Senate. When you're investigating yourself, essentially. And you remember, during the earlier part of the investigations, there was a lot of criticism leveled against people like Senator Joel Villanueva, who were making speeches during the investigation when some of the witnesses were testifying against them.
Against him.
Sila tinuturo eh. So, hindi surprising that, politics and yung relationships within the Senate will play a role to make some senators hesitant in signing a report which will essentially implicate their own colleagues.
Yeah. And I suppose kung ibawas nyo na dun, Attorney JV, agad, tatlo kasi based on the partial report, diba, merong recommendation before to file charges against the
These are
names
merely
you mentioned. Eh di yung
recommendations.
tatlong yun,
Oo.
di syempre hindi agad sila pipirma, pangalan nila yung
Yes, of course.
nandun, diba?
Of course, they have allies
Oo.
also.
And then
within the
kakausapin
Senate.
pa yung allies,
May allies pa yan. So
Oo.
you don't really expect too much from the legislative department because they are the most guilty. To me, they are the most guilty, including DPWH. If you will ask me, kung sino dapat sana ang nagbibigay ng witness protection o binibigyan ng witness protection dyan, maybe it should be the contractors eh. Kasi yung contractors, you can expect them to get money because they're trying to do business eh. So they want profit. But then the contractors cannot do that without the cooperation of Congress, senators and congressmen, because it's their insertions, and of course DPWH, because they're the ones who will get the money released from the DBM. So it's really a big conspiracy. It's really a big conspiracy. But to me, it is symbolic that we will be able to get, the big names, senators, congressmen, Garjola, Saldico, yung mga ganyan. Get them behind bars. Escudero, Villanueva, get them behind bars. Because President Marcos promised that to the people. Why is it not happening? You see, my point is that power, as I said, power and wealth will dictate this.
So, Attorney JV and weigh in Attorney Barry anytime. So, in effect, what you're trying to tell the people, yung ating mga tagapakinig, etong mga congressional hearing, whether it's in the House or the Senate, ito ay moro-moro lang.
You said it right.
So, yun ang sinasabi
This
mo.
is window
Ano
dressing.
naman?
This is window dressing.
Yeah.
This is to placate the people.
Oh,
So
kasi
that they will not, come out more often in the streets.
How can you expect nga naman that they will be testifying against each other? When
Yes.
you say, in a sense, it's a fraternal organization of sorts, di ba?
Yes.
So, would it be right to say that, why don't we, because they usually have investigations because of the Blue Ribbon Committee, or they would have investigations in aid of legislation. Di ba? Yun ang palagi nangyayari.
yun ang sinasabi.
And often then, and more often, they come up with recommendations. They can only recommend the filing of certain charges, di ba? That's what they can only do. They have contempt powers if they don't testify, but at the end of the day, ang lalabas dyan ay yung, ito, we recommend that these following people be indicted. But please pardon my ignorance because I am yet to really see. I've seen so many congressional investigations through the young years of my life and up to now.
Parang walang matanda sa table na to. Bakit ganun?
Wala pa akong nakikita talaga na masasabi natin na lumabas yung desisyon at ito ang rin-recommend na makukulong. I don't know. And then when it was and then pag-recommend, inaksyon na kagad.
These are just recommendations. It will have to go through the criminal procedure process.
Yes.
That's the problem. Ako, if you ask me...
Bakit, Attorney Barry, napansin ko lang, walang na-recommend na for filing? Or I think meron from the ICI among members of the House of Representatives.
Meron.
Meron
But
sa ICI.
parang wala tayong naririnig na nangyayari.
Because it's closed door.
Closed door. Actually, yun nga yung sabihin ko Attorney Mike. One of the values dapat ng isang congressional or Senate investigation is publicity.
Yes.
The people are watching it.
Yes.
They can call the witnesses. Maririnig natin mismo, di ba, yung direktang pagturo, di ba, sa mga senador. But at the end of the day, the weakness is it's recommendatory. And sabi nga ni Attorney JB, ang kikilos dyan dapat, Ombudsman,
Yes.
DOJ.
Yes.
And then, more than that, the courts. Diba?
Yes.
Pag nasampa na sa sandigan bayan yan, hindi mo na alam kung ilang taon ang abutin.
Kaso ang problema nga, pag wala na sa headlines,
Ayun na nga.
somewhere along the way, nawawala ng interest, inertia. Di ba?
Kaya tingin ko, one of the challenges that we need to actually surmount
Yes.
is yung delay na yon. One of the suggestions ni Ombudsman Remulla when he first assumed his new post was he was asking for the possibility of conducting continuous trial. Di ba? He was meeting with Sandigan Bayan and the Supreme Court. And I think that's an excellent suggestion.
Yes.
Dahil kung talagang mapapaiksi mo, yung normally it will take 6 years, 10 years to 2 years. Eh baka naman
Kasi yan din nagiging problema, di ba? I've seen that in several cases. Dahil nga sa katagal-tagal ng proseso, biglang mag-move ngayon yung defendant, di ba? Justice delayed is justice denied. The right of the accused to speedy trial.
That happened
So, di ba?
to Gigi Reyes,
Yes,
right? That was the reason for the dismissal
But
of her
usually,
case,
you
and
know,
not on the merits per se, right?
we have all been involved in practice. Usually, yung mga ganyang high-profile cases, they wait for the next administration. They hope that it's friendly. So that they can
dribble.
walk out.
Dribble nila.
Oo,
Yeah.
ganon.
Magaling pa naman tayong mga abogado mag-dribble.
Yan.
Parang
Na-train tayo dyan Na-train
Tony
tayo
Parker.
dyan. Now, if you will allow me,
Yes,
I
please.
think what we need really is a true political reset. A reset. Hindi na pwede yan You cannot rely on Congress now to do something about this. Yung ginagawa lang nilang anti-dynasty bill, kitang-kita mo na.
Naging
They're
pro-dynasty
protecting their
bill.
own interests. You cannot rely on these people. If we can only have a real political will and put a leadership here or a movement that can clamor for this, shut down Congress. Shut down Senate and the House of Representatives.
Naku, maraming matutuwa si Attorney JV. Tipid sa taxpayers yan.
Shut it down. Shut it down. Kasi, and then, in the next round of elections, maybe we can change the constitution, have a parliamentary system where you fuse the executive and the legislative. Kasi ngayon, they're supposed to be separate. So if the legislative, nagdakaw yan, tapos sisisihin mo yung presidente, kasi he signed the budget, it doesn't make sense.
Oo.
But
So
if
I
it's
think,
fused,
Attorney JV,
Oo.
tamang-tama to for our next topic.
Yes.
So up next, we'll talk about the deeper issue of public trust and whether structural reforms are needed to restore confidence in government accountability. So wag po kayong aalis. We'll be back. You're watching Abogado.
Welcome back and thanks for joining us. You're still watching Abogado. We now move to our second subtopic, public trust and structural reform. Public surveys consistently show that many Filipinos believe corruption remains widespread. At the same time, there is growing pressure for stronger transparency measures such as lifestyle checks, stricter procurement oversight, and greater public access to wealth disclosures.
Attorney JV, civil society and investigative journalists have played a major role in exposing irregularities in recent years.
Yes.
Does public exposure increase the likelihood of real accountability?
Yes, very much. Very much. As I said, it's really more the driver of all of these things because when you leave it to the politicians, they will not, of course, they will not show themselves to be accountable. They will try to make palusot, di ba?
Yeah.
They will steal as much money as they can because they will need it for their own election or the election of their child or the election of their wife. You know, this is the rat in the system. This is the rat. We need to be able to address and remedy this once and for all. If we want this to change, because all of us have been in government, as I said a while ago. When I sat in Congress, everybody had a share of percentages in the pork barrel. I mean, this is something that
So talagang
seems to be...
na-witness nyo
Oo,
yan.
ano yan
Nandun na talaga before pa.
It happens. It happens. I don't know during the time of Barry, but during our time, this was 2001 to 2004. Every congressman has a 50 million hard projects, pork barrel, and 20 million for soft. These hard are public works. So these are the flood control or yung mga karsada. The soft are for buying water pumps, scholarships, medicines. Senators have a higher amount, 200 million a year for hard and 70 million for soft. Now, this was abolished. When we were receiving that, yung mga contractors will offer you 10%. Now, some greedy congressman will ask for more. Will ask for maybe 20. But most of the projects are implemented. Siyempre, maganda sana if there's no commission at all. Di ba? At all. Pero kasi maliit lang naman ang sweldo ng congressman, especially during my time. I was receiving, minus the taxes, 27,000 pesos a month. I was earning more from my law practice than in serving in Congress. But that's all right, because this is public service. But when the Supreme Court abolished the CDF, it came to insertions. Insertions na ang ginagawa nila. So yung insertions, you cannot...
Tsaka nagbabago lang yung anyo ng pangalan, no? CDF used to be the
Countrywide Development Fund.
Yes. Parang pork barrel yun.
Yes,
Tapos
pork barrel
nung
yun.
sinabing unconstitutional yun, tinanggal, pero nandyan pa rin now in the form of insertion.
Theoretically, Congress shouldn't have pork barrels. Wala
Yeah.
nang pork barrel eh.
Yeah.
Inabolish nga ng Supreme Court. But, how do you explain the insertions? The insertions were running up to hundreds of billions, maybe even trillion in the case of flood control projects. These are now assigned to congressmen. Yung mga DPWH, they have the fund. They will tell Senator Villanueva, for example lang naman, Senator, I have 600 million here. Sige. Ilalagay ko sa inyo. So, insertion yon. This is what's happening now.
So dapat
they have
talaga
perfected that way. I have never seen this kind of greed, and plunder of our national coffers. This is too much. This is gross. This is gross for all of us. Yeah. So there must be no let up in public clamor against all of these officials who have stolen from the public funds. Kailangan tuloy-tuloy natin to. Kasi the trouble here, Karen, is one is of course fatigue. We cannot do protest movements every day or every week. And as it is, the protest movement is splintering. One asking not to call for the BBM resignation. The other one saying no, everybody should be made accountable. So in that very little difference, they cannot even unify. So protest actions are getting smaller and smaller. This is alarming. And people tend to forget. Eventually, the next drama that we're going to see here would be the impeachment of Vice President Sara Duterte.
At
because
bago
it's
po
going to be covered live.
Yeah, tama. So bago tayo malihis, dun tayo sa issue ng corruption. But you're right, kasi that's also public accountability. No?
Yes.
So, Attorney Barry, many observers argue that restoring public trust requires not just exposing of the wrongdoing, but consistent legal consequences. What reforms could help transform investigations into real accountability?
Ako, yung binanggit ko na kanina is, I think, one of the key points. Kailangan maging mas mabilis yung processes. Kasi tama si Attorney JB. Ang style talaga, i-delay mo eh. Hanggang yung mauupong presidente ay medyo mas sympathetic sa'yo, okay na. And we've seen that happen time and time again. Diba? When a more friendly administration comes into power, yung mga taong nahabla nung huling administrasyon, medyo nakakalimutan na yung kanilang mga
Especially
kaso.
when they help.
Exactly. Diba? Yun yung point. So, the way to actually deal with that is, try and minimize yung opportunities for delay. Kasi, tama eh. Trust in processes like the legal system, trust in the criminal justice system, trust in accountability mechanisms will not really rise kung ang nakikita naman time and time again hindi naman nakukulong yung mga malalaking isda. 'Di ba? And ang nakakadismaya pa diyan, when people experience the criminal justice system para sa mga common crimes, yung mga petty crimes na nag-shoplift ng gatas para sa anak, nakikita na lang bilis eh. 'Di ba? Huli ka agad ng pulis, tapos kulong ka agad, etc. Whereas ito, bilyon ang ninanakaw, nagpapakasarap pa eh. Di ba? Kita-kita mo, parang cool na cool pa sa social... And lalo na ngayon, with social media, mas nakakainis. Kasi nakikita mo yung mga tao, yung mga pamilya nila, parang ginaganon pa sa mukha mo eh. Di ba? Yung kanilang yung kanilang lifestyle eh.
In your
Di ba?
face.
So, the way to actually restore yung flagging confidence na yon and trust in the system is talagang yung sinabi ni Pangulong Bongbong Marcos nung November na may makukulong bago magano, kailangan mangyari yun. It cannot just be an empty promise. Kasi otherwise, ang alternative nakakatakot. When people completely lose trust dun sa mga ganitong institusyon, saan pupunta yan? Saan pupunta yung galit? Saan pupunta yung frustration na yon na over the last few months has really been boiling over dahil nakikita natin yung extent nung corruption at nakawan.
Well, thank you so much, Attorney Barry. And now we open another 6 minutes of discussion. And allow me to start it by perhaps asking both of you two questions. One, on SALN. That's very important. It's supposed to be a deterrent, right?
Yes.
And the Constitution clearly provides under Article 11 that government officials should file SALN. And then for the President, Vice President, members of the Judiciary, Armed Forces, it has to be published.
Yes.
And provided by the rules provided by law. So my first question is it really published? Unlike, for example, in Singapore, it's available online. Number two, is there already a law governing the publication of the SALN? And my second question, which is germane to the first and very related, is we do know, and we tackled this partner in our last in one of our episodes in the past, that there is actually an old forfeiture law that was passed in 1955. And in that law, if, for example, your salary and your lifestyle is grossly disproportionate, the onus probandi or the burden of proof shifts
on you.
For you to prove na itong perang ito, hindi ko po ito ninakaw. Ito po ay binigay na aking magandang mayaman na asawa. Or pinaghirapan ko to kasi ako'y isang magaling na negosyante.
That's RA 1379. Yes.
Correct. So, my question to the both of you, it's still there. On SALN, one, and two, itong batas na ito, the forfeiture law, bakit hindi nagagamit?
We have so many laws. We have so many laws already. Wala na lang whistleblower law.
Which we need, by the way. Yeah, okay.
Pero yun, wala yun. Bakit yun? Wala. Di ba? Look at the law on SALN. For the longest time, I don't know if Ombudsman Remulla has lifted it.
He has.
He has.
Which is a good sign.
Yeah.
Because for a long time, it was not accessible to the public.
Correct.
So, what do you make out of the SALN? Di ba yung SALN, they only become relevant if you're trying to get somebody, a public official, like in an impeachment, into trouble. For example, Sereno, what did her in? The SALN.
Kay ano
Corona.
rin?
Justice Corona.
SALN,
SALN.
That's the only purpose of the SALN. When those in power would like to take out somebody else who are also in power, that happens. Kasi, Corona will not have been impeached kung hindi dahil sa administration ni Aquino. The same manner, Sereno would not have suffered that fate kung hindi dahil sa administration of Duterte. So you can see there that there are mechanisms, institutions, laws, all about accountability, public accountability, but they are not working. They are not. And even if they work, you have good lawyers smart lawyers, clever lawyers who can skirt around them, who have all the, they have all the techniques in order to save their client. Yun ang problema eh. Kasi, because of this principle that everybody should be equal before the law, so somebody who stole 1 billion pesos would be equal in his rights to one who stole 100 pesos. Di ba? Yung sinasabi ni
So,
Atty.
palagay niyo ba
kanina.
dapat baguhin yung system na yan?
Well, I think we should really have a special commission which will apply certain specific and special provisions to people in government, especially lawmakers, impeachable officials who go wayward, who break the law. They have
To
to
match
be,
the power that they have.
to match
Oo.
the power.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they will always crumble before power and wealth.
Ako, there are really gaps dun sa SALN law. I mean, okay yung filing, but then when it comes to access, particularly access by the public, that's where I think it fails. To answer your question kanina, Attorney Mike, wala kasing explicit requirement in any law governing papaano i-release. Yun yung idea. Sinasabi lang, dito ifa-file, sa taong ito, and then dapat readily accessible to the public. Pero each agency has interpreted yung access requirement na yun in a different way.
Yes.
Noong panahon nga ni Ombudsman Martires, he required that before you could get access to a SALN filed with the Ombudsman,
You need the permission.
you need the permission, you needed to explain
Yes.
in a sworn statement what you wanted it for.
Yes.
Wala yun sa batas, wala yun sa konstitusyon. Our own Supreme Court, sorry na lang, di ba? Ang ruling nila is to get access to a SALN of a sitting justice, you need an en banc approval.
Nako,
Eh,
ang hirap nun.
sino makakakuha nun? And then sa Congress, routinely, ito, natatawa ako dito tuwing magiging issue yung SALN, sasabihin ng media, the following members of Congress have released their SALNs. Hindi naman dapat hindi naman dapat option nila yun That should be so there should be a stricter, clearer requirement para doon, because right now it is not fulfilling its purpose of transparency and accountability. 1379 I think is underutilized. Kasi tama yung sabi mo, Attorney Mike, sobrang powerful nung presumption that it creates.
Yes.
So long as there is a disproportion between your lawful income and the assets that you have, automatically assumed unlawfully acquired and therefore subject to
Confiscation,
forfeiture.
forfeiture.
Bahala kang magpaliwanag kung saan mo nakuha yan. And yet we're not seeing enough cases filed on that when yun dapat nga automatic yun Itong sa
Because who's going to file it?
Exactly.
Who's going to file it? Who's going to go against it? I mean, an ordinary citizen
theoretically,
will not spend his
ombudsman,
time.
pwede.
But again, that I guess goes into the question of whether you have the independence of the ombudsman guaranteed even if he's appointed by the president. So, in this case, Attorney JV, you said, buti si Ombudsman Remulla yung naupo dyan, but yung perception pa rin na iba kasi is, kaya niya ba maging independent with respect to investigations relating to the president?
Does he have enough powers to do it? No?
Yeah.
That's the question. Well, the ombudsman only conducts preliminary investigation and imposes penalty on administrative cases. Okay? Of course, he cannot touch the impeachable officials because they have to be impeached first.
What about pero
being
pag-allies
this-
ng presidente?
Yes.
Oo, hindi ba siya
Yung allies.
mapapakiusapan? O, yan ang
Well, that's where
inaano na iba,
politics
yung
comes in.
selective.
And it should not be the case. Kasi the ombudsman, like any justice of the Supreme Court, the moment he is appointed, he should no longer play partisan politics and should not look up to whoever appointed him. He should be freed from that. However, the power of the ombudsman, except in administrative case where he can suspend or dismiss, terminate from office, he can only recommend, file an information to prosecute. So, kahit na file siya ng file, marami na siyang finailan. When you get to the Sandigan Bayan, that's another question now. The Sandigan is designed so that there are 3 justices. But it has really only the power of an RTC. Pareho lang eh. It's a trial court.
Yeah.
It's not really a collegiate appeals court eh.
Yeah.
It's a trial court.
Kasi they receive evidence directly.
This is the only trial, it's the only trial court where you have 3 justices sitting or 3 judges, no? So you need to get 3 judges to make a decision. If one of them dissents, then you make a division of 5 so that you can get always 3. Of course, it is designed so that it will be harder to corrupt. Because there are 3 instead of corrupting
mahal.
only 1. Mas mahal. But then, these big politicians are in a position to afford it. They can afford it. So, how can you check that? Who checks that? Diba?
Yeah.
And actually, just to add, even yung sa administrative cases where the ombudsman has the direct power of discipline, we saw that with the ombudsman Carpio Morales and Joel
yes.
Villanueva.
Yes.
She ordered the dismissal,
Correct.
and it was ignored.
Yes.
Diba? The Senate did not act on it. So,
And
yun
then
yung-
reversed.
and then, quietly, na-reverse na
Quietly
pala
reversed.
yung ex-ombudsman.
Wala nakakaalam.
Nangyari. So, even yun, may mga may nakikita ka when you run up against political power, sometimes,
Yes.
walang nangyayari.
Naku, ang daming na-expose na weaknesses, no? Itong discussion natin. Thank you, attorneys. When we return, closing reflections on our central question. Is real accountability finally within reach, or does it remain elusive? This is Abogado.
Welcome back. You're still watching Abogado. Tonight, we explored one of the most important questions in democratic governance: whether investigations truly lead to accountability.
Because in a functioning democracy, exposing wrongdoing is only the first step. Justice ultimately requires consequences. We now ask our guests for their closing reflections. Attorney JV, your final statement.
Well, it is our hope that accountability would be exacted. But right now, the signs are not very encouraging. There was a movie recently which won the Oscar as Best Movie. It's called One Battle After Another. Yeah. It was really written because the writer felt that there was some generational accountability to the new generation, to the children, that they are leaving behind a household mess that they could not fix. And hoping that the next generation, these children now, will be able to fix it in the future. I'm beginning to identify with that kind of a message. Kasi we were the activists of the 80s. Of the 80s. That was more than 40 years ago. And then we have been able to take the reins of government, many of us. Noy was 1 year below me in Ateneo High School. Bongbong, the current president, is the same year as I was in La Salle High School when I was in Ateneo High School. So this is now the generation that is holding power, that is wielding power. And where has it taken us? Look around you. Look at this mess of a flood control scandal, which does not seem to be anywhere near resolution. Because nobody is even getting jailed.
Okay, and
I am asking the president, I am charging him to make good on his word na may makulong na. Before the end of March, ikulong nyo na yan. Di ba? Ang nakulong nila, Revilla, former senator, kung mo ba natalo, nakulong nyo. Pero pag nanalo, hindi nyo na kayang kulong. Why can you not put behind bars? Why could you not get Saldico? With the immense power of the government, he can, alam nila kung nasan eh.
Yeah.
Why can you not jail Guardiola? Why can you not jail Dong Gonzales, a former congressman who is involved in all of this mess? Yung mga senador na yan. No?
So, on that
Villanueva,
note,
Escudero, Estrada, why can you not get them in jail? Or at least, very least, charge them.
Yeah.
Right?
Oo. So, Attorney JV, I hate to interrupt you kasi maubusan na tayo ng oras. But very clear ang message mo. One battle after another.
Kamukha
Yun
niya
ang
si
theme.
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Oo.
Pwede.
I'm still hoping, Karen and Mike, I'm still hoping that we resolve this at least in our lifetime, and we are able to institute the changes that we need in order to strengthen accountability mechanisms and reform this rotten government that we now have. I am still hoping.
Attorney Barry, your closing statements.
I share yung hope ni Attorney JV. Who wouldn't, di ba? We all want to see Philippines and a government na meron talagang genuine accountability. And despite yung frustrations of the last, 6 months, and our disappointment with a lot of things that this government has failed to actually deliver on this issue, I still think that this is a historical moment. Ibig sabihin, yung galit ng tao at seeing the extent of corruption exposed, I think provides us a window of opportunity. So, even if ultimately hindi mapufulfill lahat ng possibilities for that opportunity, I think it's incumbent upon us to push it as far as we can. To get as much change, as much reform, as much gain as we can ngayon. That includes yung mga batas na nakasalang. That includes meron tayong mahahabla, makakasuhan, makukulong ng mga tiwali. And more than that, tingin ko, malapit na eleksyon, di ba? In 2 years, baka dapat bumaon na rin sa isip nating bilang mga Pilipino, bilang mga botante na a large part of yung pagkakaroon ng accountability depends kung sinong ilalagay natin sa puder. Ilang beses natin pinag-usapan kanina, yung iba dyan naghihintay lang ng kanilang kaalyado. So, mag-isip-isip na rin tayo, di ba? Kung gusto natin ng talagang pag-aayos, talagang pananagutan para sa mga tiwali sa gobyerno, pumili rin tayo ng mga taong alam natin titindig para sa ganong klaseng prinsipyo.
Sino yun?
Okay. So that's for another episode of Abogado, di ba? Kasi bitin ng 1 hour pagka yung mga guests natin eh. Our thanks to Attorney Barry Gutierrez and Attorney JV Bautista for helping us examine this critical issue.
Indeed, accountability is not only about exposing wrongdoing, it is also about ensuring that institutions can translate truth into justice.
Because in the end, public trust in democracy depends on whether the rule of law applies equally to everyone. This is Abogado. Good night.